Hi, guys. Welcome back to Lifestyling Better with me. Today, we are doing a movies into reality section, and we are going to be reviewing Wicked for Good, the second and concluding part of the Wicked series. So before we get into it, let's just do a quick overview and connecting of the dots. So Wicked Part 1, the first part of Wicked, was released last year, I think around this time as well. Something that is important to note, in case you did not know, is that Wicked 1 and Wicked 2 was all shot at that time last year. So the movie has great continuity because everything was shot at the same time. I really love when movies have continuity, things just flow seamlessly from one part to the other, so that was good. Another thing about Wicked for Good that you should know is that in addition to just completing the storyline, which is basically, I guess, its primary function, it also brought into play a lot of classic themes we know from The Wizard of Oz. It kind of explained certain things, brought in classic themes, classic scenes. Um, Personally, I don't know how I really felt about that. I felt it was a little bit unnecessary, and it was seemed to be like they were trying to fit a lot of things into the movie. But yes, it does do that. Now let's get into it. The opening scene of the movie was really interesting to me. I don't know, for some reason it struck me really hard. It was the building of the yellow brick road by the animals. If you would recollect, in Wicked Part 1, which I also reviewed on this channel, the thing that the Wicked Witch, Alphaba, really was upset about and caused her to be branded as being a wicked witch was the fact that she did not like the way the animals were being mistreated, being made to forget who they were, lose their voices, literally. And in this opening scene, the animals were slaving away building the yellow brick road. And this is another thing when I say they really try to make bring in a lot of the classic themes of Wizards of Oz, because we know that the yellow brick road leading to the wizard's castle, or whatever you call it, is a classic theme of the Wizard of Oz. But here they're showing us how this yellow brick road is pretty much being built on the back of wickedness. These animals are being enslaved and made to build the land. When I review movies, I call it movies into reality, because I also just try to um, relate things to reality, lessons we can learn, and things like that in general. And I do think it's nice that the movie tries to make us see another side to things. Like, there's the classic story we've been told, how the Wicked Witch is the Wicked Witch, but was she really wicked? There's the yellow brick road, which is this beautiful yellow road that we see leading up to this wizard's castle. But seeing how the road was built, it was, I don't know, it was just jarring to me for some reason. Like, it's such a beautiful road, but see the way it's being built on the back of people who don't want to be doing that, the animals. So anyway, the Wicked Witch makes an entrance, and she kind of tries to, I guess, mess things up because she's not happy that the animals are being forced to build this road. And we just see her make an entrance, things get all scattered and riled up. And then we have the next scene, I believe it's the next scene, in which we see Miss Marable, the teacher from the first part, Glinda, and they're addressing the people or something to that nature. And she's also welcoming back the army. And I believe the army is pretty much tasked with finding the Wicked Witch. So the army, which apparently seems to be led by Fiyero, remember Fiyero, who was in this love triangle with Glinda, and Alphaba, aka the Wicked Witch from part 1, and they basically seem like they're in a relationship, um, he's hugging her, she's hugging him, or whatever. But something weird that happens is they basically announce a wedding on Fierro, and Fierro seems confused, like, wait, were we getting married? And then Glinda is saying, oh, the wizard thought it would be a great idea. So apparently, Glinda is fully on board, working with and for the wizard, as well as Miss Marble, pulling the puppet strings. So at some point, Fierro pulls Glinda behind, away from, because remember, they're facing the people. He pulls her away from the people, and he reminds her that they cannot find Alfie, the Wicked Witch, because you know what they will do to her, and you know she's not really this person that they're trying to make her out to be. So apparently, Fierro is leading the army to find her, but is actually trying to save her, something along those lines. But within that scene, the Wicked Witch does come on scene, and she writes with her broom in the sky that the wizard lies. And then Miss Marable uses her powers to change that to Oz dies. And then she shows the people that see the Wicked Witch wants to kill all of them and all of that. And then the army goes after the Wicked Witch led by Fierro, but they don't find her. um, I assume Fierro didn't see her, but again, he's actually low key trying to save her, even if he did see her. So at some point, Alphaba, she's living basically on the outskirts in some trees and all of that. And she approaches the animals because she sees them, that they're all trying to leave, and she's trying to encourage them that don't leave, this is our land. And they're like, why do you even want to stay? Everybody hates you and all of that. And she's basically like, why would I want to leave my home? And they're trying to find a connection through the underground to just leave Oz because they're so over it. And then they say, we know what you did to the monkeys, because remember at the end of part one, she was trying to do some spell, and she always sort of seems to mess up the spells. She was trying to do a spell from the Grimmer, and it ended up that the monkeys had wings. So one of the animals was accusing her of that, and she was like, yeah, that was a mistake, we can make things right, and you all don't have to leave, and all of that. And then that scene ends. And then it cuts to her sister Nessa Rose, who's in a wheelchair, and she's the governor. Remember, their father was the governor, but he had passed at that point, and she's now the governor. So I'm like, oh, cool. Nessa Rose, all in her boss era. And we see Buck also from the first part, who was in love with Glinda, but Nessa is in love with him. And I was thinking, oh, are they a couple now? That's pretty cool. But come to find out, no, they are not a couple. Apparently, he works for Nessa Rose, and to be honest, it seems like he is working against his will. He is kind of a slave, but she is in love with him and wants him to be with her by any means possible. So in the scene, Buck tells her, I think it's time for me to leave. And then she gets like upset, and then she's like, you have go now if you want to leave. Like, he wants to leave her working for her, I guess. And the reason he had wanted to leave is, I think he saw in a newspaper or something that Glinda is getting married, and in his mind he's like, I need to reach Glinda before she gets married so I can tell her how I feel about her. And then when he's leaving, he tells Nessa, this won't be the last time we'll see each other. And she's like, oh yeah, I know this will not be the last time. And I was thinking, why is she saying that? But soon enough, we see why. While he's trying to leave, and he's in the train station, there's a sign that says, oh, the governor, Nessa Rose, just put up this decree today that Munchkins, because remember he's a Munchkin, cannot leave without some sort of permit or something from the governor. So basically, he cannot leave, and he's back working for Nessa, and it's just so crazy how she is in a somewhat disadvantaged position, but she's also trying to suppress somebody else and force him to do what she wants to do, even though she knows he doesn't want to do that. That was just wild. Like, you're going to love me no matter what. So when he comes back, he's upset. And then around that time, Alphaba visits her sister, and she's telling her sister she needs her help so she can chain things with the wizard, free the animals, that Nessa should help her. Nessa's like, why should I help you? Where were you when when their dad died? And then Alphaba's like, he never loved me, whatever, whatever. And she almost said something. She was like, the reason he didn't love me was, and I was wondering what she was gonna say. Is it because she's different or something else? But yeah, she didn't complete that thought. And at the end of the movie, something is revealed that makes me wonder if that was the reason she thought he didn't love her. I mean, he didn't. I think he was quite open about that. But anyway, so Ness is like, I'm not helping you. And then Buck comes on scene, and Buck is kind of like scared. And Alphaba is like, it's just me. I'm not going to do anything to you. So Nessa tells her sister, you need to help me. You need to help me to make Buck love me or whatever. But before that, Alphaba also does this spell to make Nessa levitate out of her wheelchair, so it feels like she's just floating in a standing position in the room. So she feels very excited and tells Alphaba to help her make sure. No, she doesn't even. I think she tells Alphaba to help her make Buck fall in love with her. And Alphaba is like, well, I can't do that or something like that. Then Nessa goes to the Grimmery and starts reading some stuff. And Alphaba is like, stop, don't do that. And next thing, Buck is there and he's like, what is happening to his heart? What is happening? His heart is getting smaller and smaller. And guys, I have this thing that I just always can predict what's going to happen in a movie. And at this point, I already knew that Buck was going to become the Tin Man. So this is what I'm saying about in this concluding part. They really tried to bring in a lot of classic themes. Now we're seeing the Tin Man. So he's talking about how his heart is getting smaller and smaller. And Alphaba tells Nessa to go out so that she can do something to try and help him. And basically what she does, I guess, is to make him a Tin Man so he doesn't need a heart. Because when Alphaba goes out to meet Nessa on her way to leave, Nessa's like, oh, did you save him? What about his hearts? And Alphaba's like, don't worry, he won't be needing that anymore. And then Buck comes out, sees he's a Tin Man, screams and leaves. And Nessa is so self-absorbed because Buck is asking her what happened to me. And instead of her to say she caused it and Alphaba helps sort of fix it, she says, oh no, it's the Wicked Witch that did it to you. That is Alphaba. So I'm like, oh, Nessa, you are just something else. It's the entitlement for me and this fatal love that you have for this guy who does not love you. So in the midst of that exchange, Alphaba did find out that Glinda is getting married. She paid her a visit, and they're sort of friends, frenemies, friends basically. So it's a warm moment. It's an emotional moment, and Glinda is still trying to get Alphaba to get on their side, that is her and the wizard side, and how they can do a lot more if they work together. And Glinda is just like, I don't know about that and all of that. But they do end up at the wizard's place. And yeah, Alphaba basically agrees that, okay, I'll work with you guys. I agree. I can do more working with you guys than working against you. Um, but as she agrees to that, then she finds out that the wizard has a bunch of animals locked in his basement. And she's like, I can't believe I was actually going to come to your side. You know, you're no good, blah, blah, blah. And at that point, around that time, Fiyero and his army come in. And so it's Fiyero, Glinda, the wizard, and Alphaba. And Fiyero tells his team, oh, go get water so that we can use it to kill the witch, because apparently they all believe, I think it's Miss Marble that spread this story. They all believe water can kill the witch. So in that time, Fiyero tells Alphabet to run away. And then when Miss Marble comes and she's like, what happened? Where is she? And then she sees that all the guardsmen went to get water. She's like, oh, you idiots. Because I think she's the one that came up with that story that water can actually kill the witch. So Fiyero meets up with Alphaba after that, after saving her. And he tells, well, in that moment, he actually leaves with Alphaba. And Glinda is like, what were you guys cheating on me the whole time, cheating behind my back the whole time? And Glinda is really upset. And Miss Marble and the wizard are thinking, oh, how can they bring the Wicked Witch out, you know, so that they can get her? And then Glinda, in her anger of being scorned, a woman scorned, says, oh, her sister, just tell her something happened to her sister and she'll come out. And then Miss Marble is like, no, it cannot just be, she won't just believe that we need to do something really big. So Alphaba is with Fiyero, and he tells her he loves her. She can't believe it. She says, oh, how can you say you think I'm beautiful, or you don't really think I'm beautiful? And then he says, it's just looking at something differently. And that whole scene was at the night in like her tree house or wherever she's staying. And her skin, the green was graining. I just kept thinking the whole time, this green is graining. She looks so beautiful. Her skin and her reflection in the dark night was amazing. Remember, this is a musical, so there was music and singing sprinkled all through this. And, you know, they were together, they spent the night together, professed love to each other, and it was magical while it lasted. So the next day, um, as they're together, um, Alphaba says, oh, she's seen houses flying, something is happening to her sister. What is happening is Miss Marble has created a storm with her powers, and Nesta comes out in the middle of the storm looking for her fatal love, Buck, and gets buried under a house. So even though it seemed like Miss Marble wasn't taking Glinda's advice, she kind of did. She just made it real because Nesta actually died under that storm, unfortunately. So what Alphaba is seeing is um, houses moving through the storm, and that her sister's in trouble. So she tells Pharaoh that she has to go help her sister. And she's like, oh, will I ever even see you again? And then he's like, Alpha, you can see houses moving, but you can't see that I will always be there for you. And he was also talking about how they need to run away and stay in one of the castles that his family doesn't live in. And she's like, oh, so where do you guys live in? And he's like, oh, another castle. And then she's like, oh, of course. So anyway, she goes to the site of her sister's death, and there we see Glinda the Good. Oh, guys, I forgot to tell you something. So at the beginning of the movie, before that scene where Glinda announced her wedding with Fiyero, the Miss Marble gave her this thing, the thing we see her in the first part of the movie, which is a bubble that she transports herself in. Because Glinda doesn't really have any powers, right? So she gives her this contraption that the wizard made, because the wizard basically uses technology as his power. He doesn't have any power either. And it's she steps on the floor, then the bubble comes up, and can transport her around. Then she pops it open and then the bubble disappears. So that's how she got that um, con- contraption. And she also gave her a wand, Miss Marble. And Glinda also had a flashback to that time to where she was given a wand when she was a little girl and she was trying to do magic, but she couldn't. And that flashback was so cute because we could see the dimples in the little girl and the dimples in Ariana Grande. So I'm like, okay, y'all casting, y'all did your thing there. But anyway, back to where I was in the story. So Alphaba is at the site of her sister's passing, and Glinda is there and addressing people, giving a motivational speech. And in that moment, when Alphaba arrives, she sees that Glinda has given her sister's shoes, Nessa, to some girl that is lost and is trying to get back home to Kansas. So this is another piece where the story is bringing in classic tropes from The Wizard of Oz, because that is Dorothy who is trying to get back home to Kansas, and Glinda gave her Nessa's shoes, and then also there's the Tin Man who is trying to get a heart, and then there is also you know a cowardly lion who apparently the Wicked Witch, because she loves animals and was trying to free them, freed him from captivity when he was a baby, but now he's grown up away from um I guess his from wherever he was. So now he's a cowardly lion because he didn't grow up the way he should have grown up or something. It was Tin Man that said that when he was blaming Alphaba for making the cowardly lion cowardly. So it may not make sense, but anyway, he's a cowardly lion because remember in the classic Wizard of Oz, there's Dorothy, the Tin Man, a cowardly lion, and we will get to the last piece later. If you know, you know. So Glinda in that scene is sending them away to go to the wizard, and Alphaba's like, that wizard cannot help these people. Why are you sending them to the wizard? And who gave you the right to give them my sister's shoes? And blah blah blah. Um, and then Fiero comes on scene, and the gods are trying to um, take, take Alphaba. Then Fiero stands to protect her by putting a gun or whatever that thing is they have, the weapon, by pointing it towards Glinda. And I guess Alphaba gets to run away in that moment. And then when the guards overpower Fiero after Alphaba has left, and Glinda's like, just leave him alone. He wasn't actually going to hurt me. He only did it because he loved her. So I guess in that moment, it's just clicking to Glinda that it was always Alphaba. It was never her. Because Alphaba also told her that, oh no, he never loved you. It was always me, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, while that is happening, Alphaba goes to the Grimmer and is trying to make a spell so that whatever they do to Fear will not be able to hurt him or kill him And at that point, I'm like, oh my goodness, every time Alphabet gets with this Grimmer and is trying to do a spell, it always goes south. So it's in that moment I already know what is going to become of Fiero, because I tell you, I always have like such good insight to what's going to happen in movies. But we'll get to what happens to him later. So she goes back to the wizard's place and locks up Dorothy because apparently Dorothy cannot get her sister's shoes off her feet, and she really wants to get her sister's shoes. So she locks her up, and in that moment, Glinda comes back. They make up. They have this powerful scene, this amazing song. You know how at the end of part one there was a song that was like the song. In part two, this was the song, and it was because I knew you. I've been changed for good. Guys, I'm not the best singer, but you need to look up that song. It's because I knew you. I've been changed for good. Like, I may not have been changed for the better, but I've been changed for good because I knew you. It was such an emotional moment between the two of them. and all of that. And um, Alphabet comes up with a plan. She doesn't tell Glinda, but she tells Glinda to close the door and all of that. She fetches a ton of water. She opens up Dorothy from where she's locked her in the ground, and Dorothy pours water on the Wicked Witch, and then there's this like the witch dissolving away because water has been poured on her. I think this water killing the witch thing is a myth that Miss Marble came up with, but apparently everybody believes it, including Glinda. So we see like the shadow of it happening, and I think this is also another classic wicked scene, the Wicked Witch disappearing because she's been killed with water or something like that. So that was another thing they tried to tie into this scene. So when all that is over and Glinda opens the door, she believes that her friend is dead. She's so sad. But in that sadness, she derives such strength because she goes to the wizard, shows him like a little swig alcohol bottle that she says that um Alphaba got from her dad, and it's in that moment that the the Wizard of Oz realizes that, oh, he's actually Alphaba's biological dad. Because if you remember in the first part, the mom had slept with some stranger and then got pregnant not long after. So, and then Glinda is saying, oh, yes, that's why she was so powerful. Like she was half human because the wizard is human and half from Oz. So this is what I was alluding to earlier, that maybe Alphaba was trying to say maybe their dad never really liked her because he knew she wasn't his, as well as the fact that she's different. I think in the first part, I just thought she was different because the mother had committed like an atrocity. Um, while she was pregnant, because I think she was pregnant when they showed us that scene of her hooking up with the wizard, but maybe they had been hooking up for some time. So anyway, she's half human, half from Oz. That is revealed, and then she makes sure the wizard leaves. Like Glinda is in her boss B mode. She sends the wizard off. She gets Miss Marable carried away by the winged monkeys. The animals are released and all of that. Then in an alternate scene, we actually see, in another scene, we actually see that the witch didn't die because water does not kill her. Come on. And she is with Fiyero, and Fiyero is now, this is what I was alluding to, he's now the scarecrow. Guys, he is now the scarecrow. The spell she did that he would not get hurt by the guards, he's not getting hurt, man. He was a scarecrow, so he could not get hurt. And um, Alphabet's telling him how he's so beautiful, and it's like, you're lying. It's like, no, I'm not lying. I'm just, it's a way of seeing things differently, just like he said to her. And they walk off into the sunset, and she's talking about how she wishes they could tell Glinda, but that she knows Glinda can never know. And then continuity at its perfection, we get back to the scene that was at the very beginning of part one. Remember, this whole story, Glinda was telling it because she was addressing the people, and they were asking her, she was in her little bubble contraption, and they were asking her, is it true that you and the Wicked Witch were friends? And then she said, yes, when we were in school a long time ago. And in part one, this is where it cuts into the story where she talks about, are people born wicked or do people have wickedness thrust upon them? So in this part, um, I feel like she kind of wants to say the truth, but she remembers when Alphaba, before she tells her to, she locks her up and has Dorothy fake kill her. Alphaba actually told Glinda that people need a hero, so you cannot tell them the truth. Because Glinda is like, we need to just go to everybody and tell them the truth. But she talks about how people need a hero and need to have hope, and she needs to be Glinda the good, and there needs to be wickedness for people to believe in good. And she actually leaves Glinda with the Grimmer. And I'm like, thank goodness Alphaba no longer has this Grimmer to mess up spells or I guess she did mess them up, but the spells were always somehow, guys. But she gives the grimoire to Glinda, and Glinda's like, I can't read this thing. Then she's like, you have to learn. Goodness needs to mean something, and that was so powerful. Like, it actually needs to mean something that you're good. You can't just be good because there's an a wicked person for you to be good off of. So anyway, Glinda talks about how yes, she did know her, but she doesn't go into revealing, that the wicked witch is actually not wicked. She just talks about how they need to change us for the better. Animals are now free, and all of that. And that, guys, and also they cut to the scene of the professor. That I think was he a goat? That was the professor in part one. He's now released. All the animals are released, and Oz is back to flourishing. And the Wicked Witch Alphaba and Fiyero, now the Scarecrow, are walking off into the part outside of Oz, which is nothingness, according to to what they show and what was mentioned at some point earlier in the movie. But yes, that brought us to the end of Wicked Part 2, Wicked for Good, where Alphaba has been etched as being wicked for good. I really like how the movie challenged the themes of goodness and wickedness and the connection between um, trying to make things work out for your own good, like the wizard, but in essence destroying his child, which he didn't really do, but he thought he, through his series of actions of going after Alphaba, had killed her. How the underdog, just was okay being the underdog for the greater good. And also this sort of goodness and wickedness in Glinda. Is she bad? Is she good? Um, yeah, I liked all of that. Like I said earlier, before I even started this, getting into this review, I thought the whole bringing in of Dorothy, the Tin Man, the Scarecrow, the Lion, I felt like that was a bit, I feel like that wasn't really necessary, but I don't think it necessarily took anything from the movie. I just thought it wasn't necessary. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. I know it's been forever since I've done a review, but thank you guys for watching this. Sometimes I'm not too sure you'll watch this, you'll like this, but I hope you do. I watched a bunch of movies over the summer, but I just couldn't get to reviewing them. I hope you guys had a good summer. You're having a good holiday season. Did you watch all the movies that came out over the summer? Now You See Me, Fantastic Four, Superman. Anyway, guys, I will try to do a better job of reviewing all these movies as I watch them. Thank you so much for sticking with me through this review. Please support and encourage your girl, like, share, and subscribe. Till the next one, guys. Thank you and bye.